And, of course, no one denies that Captain Stringer is an experienced trawler skipper. On the contrary, we know that he has from time to time won various awards and trophies for his seamanship. But the prosecution will argue that it is precisely because of his vast experience that he is even more guilty, perhaps, of the offence with which he has been charged. For here was no novice, no inexperienced trawler skipper making his first trip and unable to withstand the pressure, but a man who for many years had been at the very top of his profession. A man familiar with all the hazards and dangers of fishing.
Mr. William Stringer, captain of the fishing trawler Martina, has been charged with causing the death through criminal neglect of John Sullivan, a deckhand who served on the Martina while it was engaged in fishing operations at Bear Island. Mr. Stringer has pleaded not guilty. The jury in this trial has been selected from members of the public whose names appear on the electoral register and who are eligible for jury service.
Protests and demands made by the family of the deceased that the police conducted their own inquiries, which led to papers being sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions. Subsequently, on the 6th of December, Stringer was arrested and charged with the offence. The prosecution calls James Armstrong. You are James Armstrong of 11 Gates Garth Road, Fulchester?
Yeah.
And what is your occupation?
Trawlerman.
Deckhand?
Yeah.
And do you know the accused, Captain Stringer?
Yeah. He was the skipper aboard the Martina.
On which you served?
Yeah.
And what was your relationship to the deceased, John Sullivan?
He was the brother-in-law. He was married to my sister, Rita.
And was he also a fisherman?
No, he'd never set foot on a ship. Not until he signed up on the Martina.
Are you saying that he had absolutely no seagoing experience whatsoever?
Yep.
And yet he was signed up as a member of the crew?
Yep.
And do skippers often recruit totally non-skilled labour, men completely without experience, to serve upon fishing vessels?
Well, no, it's usually the mate who does the hiring, him and the ship's runner.
What exactly is a ship's runner, Mr. Armstrong?
Oh, they're men employed by the owners, my lord, whose job it is getting the crew signed up. And more often than not, they work hand in hand with the mate.
Thank you.
But on this occasion, it was me that had asked the mate, could he give John a job? You see, well, what happened was...
Yes, please go on, Mr. Armstrong.
Well, I was signing on board the Martina for the first time, which meant that I had to lug all my bedding with me.
Bedding?
Yeah, you see, in this port, trawlermen have to provide their own mattresses and beddings.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, John said that he would give me an hand to cart me bedding down to the ship, which he did. So we dumped it aboard and we went ashore for a couple of pints. And most of the crew were in this pub, all getting tanked up, and the company runner was there, acting as paymaster.
How do you mean paymaster?
Lending out money, which he'd get back with interest when the trip was over. Most runners do it, it's a sort of sideline. Anyway, just before closing time it was, the mate comes into the pub to bully us out and discovers that one of the crew had gone adrift. His gear was there, but he'd gone. He must have changed his mind at the last minute.
Does that often happen?
What? You mean crew going adrift?
Yes.
Well, occasionally, yeah, if a man's feeling a bit flush and can afford a trip off.
Mr. Armstrong, did this man's absence have anything to do with the fact that Captain Stringer was in command?
How do you mean?
Well, is it possible this chap set himself adrift, as you say, to avoid sailing under Captain Stringer?
My lord, I must object.
So must I, Miss Dunwoody. Mr. Hudson knows very well that leading questions on contentious matters are not allowed.
I'm sorry, my lord.
This witness can't possibly know what was in the mind of the absentee trawlerman.
No, my lord. So, having discovered that this man had disappeared, what did you do?
Well, this meant that the crew was one short, so I asked John, was he interested in signing on up for one trip? I mean, I knew he was skint, he hadn't worked for 9 months. I thought I was doing him a favour.
And did he agree to this?
Yeah. He was a bit worried about the idea, but I put it to the mate and I gave him the score, and he said it was okay. He said his main concern was making up the crew, that he could always find John a job in the fish room.
Ah, which is situated below deck and is therefore reasonably safe.
Yeah.
And what happened next?
Well, the runner agreed to go and tell his wife, our Rita, what had happened. And John picked up the gear left by the fellow who floated and went on board.
And then you set sail for the fishing grounds?
Yeah.
How long did that take?
What do you mean, to reach the grounds?
Yes.
Oh, about 5 days.
And during this time, did your brother-in-law seem to settle down reasonably well? Did he appear perhaps a bit nervous, a little frightened at all?
No, he was a bit sick the first day out, but he soon got over that.
And was he put to work in the fish room?
Yeah, he did a bit of clearing up down there and setting the boxes out, but I mean, you're steaming for the grounds. There's not a great deal you can do except get the gear ready.
So, in all, then, he was quite happy, or if not totally happy, at least he wasn't distressed or upset in any way.
No, not in the slightest. As a matter of fact, he used to sit down and try and work out how much the trip would make, you know, what he could buy his family for Christmas. He even talked about going trawling permanent.
As a regular job, you mean?
Yeah.
How old was your brother-in-law, Mr. Armstrong?
31.
Then he could have made trawling his career.
Yeah. Or at least until something else turned up, he could have.
Now, before we talk about what happened when you arrived at the fishing grounds, perhaps you tell us how long you've been going to sea.
Well, I first went fishing as a decky learner when I was 17 years old.
A decky learner, Mr. Armstrong?
That's how you start off, my lord.
An apprentice, you mean?
Well, more or less, only we don't call them that. See, a decky learner's a sort of assistant to the deckhands. He helps provide them with any equipment they might need. And whereas he might do a bit of gutting up on deck, his main job is chopping ice down in the fish room.
Which I take it is where the fish is stowed away?
Yeah. You see, after the fish have been gutted on deck and gone through the washers, they slide down a chute into the fish room, where, as you say, they're stowed away by the three fellows who work below. But as far as a decky learner is concerned, his main job is cracking the ice, which gets as hard as rock. I mean, a lot don't stick it, you know, because it's a really hard job. And them that do, they're on the way to becoming real deckhands.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Armstrong.
And what age are you now?
36.
And during those 19 years, have you always been employed as a fisherman?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree, then, that you are well qualified to express an opinion when it comes to fishing and the various hazards associated with that occupation?
Well, I think I've been at sea long enough to know what to expect, if that's what you mean.
How long have you known Captain Stringer?
Well, I've known him for quite a while. Of course, I've seen him around a lot, but I only sailed under him that once.
And prior to that, what was your opinion of him?
Well, he came from all with a big reputation, and he used to land some big catches, so I suppose I looked on him as a top skipper, which just goes to show how wrong you can be.
Did you at any time have any arguments or disagreements with him?
No, I've never even spoken to him.
Did you have any cause for complaint while you were on your way to the fishing grounds?
No, he was a bit of a stickler for discipline, you know, getting things done, but we never seen much of him. All in all, I'd say it was an happy ship.
I see. So the change in his attitude, then, occurred after you'd arrived at the fishing grounds?
Yeah, especially when we hit the bad weather.
Had you on other occasions fished off Bear Island?
Yeah, but never under those conditions, though.
Well, perhaps you can describe to the court what it was like, Mr. Armstrong.
Well, I mean, the first day at the grounds, we hit pack ice, fog. The gear was frozen solid. The ship was caught in a snow squall. I mean, nothing seemed to go right for us. The trawl kept coming up empty. Now, we knew there was plenty of fish there, but
by a trawl, Mr. Armstrong, you mean the net that is cast over the side?
Yeah. And, of course, as things got worse, and the net kept coming up empty, or nearly empty, the skipper started taking it out on us.
In what way?
Well, keeping us on deck when we should have been below resting. Constantly changing the trawl when there was nothing wrong with the other one, that sort of thing. Cursing everybody, from the mate down to the galley boy.
And while all this was going on, was Sullivan still employed down in the fish room?
Yeah, mostly. Up until the night that the ship nearly turned over, when the skipper called all hands on deck.
The same night that Sullivan was washed overboard?
Yeah. See, the ship was top-heavy with ice. He had every member of the crew up on deck attacking it with hammers, axes, hot water hoses, whatever they could lay their hands on.
And, my lord, evidence will be called later to the effect that the weight of the ice on the superstructure alone exceeded 45 tons and was increasing every second.
Yeah, and there was a force 9 blowing and all. I hope the report mentions that as well.
Indeed it does, Mr. Armstrong. My lord, according to the Beaufort scale, a force 9 wind is capable of lifting slates and chimney pots on land.
Yeah, in spite of that, he still wouldn't take us out of it. In spite of all that, he insisted that we carry on fishing.
Mr. Armstrong, just confine yourself to answering counsel's questions.
Yes, my lord.
Thank you, my lord. Mr. Armstrong, this subject is so very complex and difficult for any layman to understand that it's very important the court realises exactly what was involved. For example, perhaps you could describe to the court the course of events.
How do you mean?
Well, this build-up of ice, I take it, is part of a slow process, surely.
That built up in a matter of hours. And the thing is, it was expected. I mean, everybody knew what was going to happen, including the skipper. There was bergs exploding all around us.
You mean icebergs?
Yeah.
And these explosions are, I take it, caused by pressure?
Yeah, something like that. Either way, if you bump into one, which nearly happened, incidentally, then you've had it.
And what's the sequence of events? I mean, when you start fishing operations, how does it work?
Well, you shoot, all, and gut.
By shooting, you mean that the net is launched over the side of the ship?
Correct. Then you start towing. Hoping you'll just cut for something.
I see. And how long does that last?
Oh, it depends. Anything from 2 to 3 hours.
And during that period of waiting, what are the deckhands doing?
Well, the 3 that's resting are down below, while the other 9 are up on deck, gutting the fish that come up on the last haul.
And who's in charge of this gutting? Is it the mate?
No, once the net's been hauled in and the fish landed and the net put over the side again, the mate goes down to the fish room to make sure the fish are being stowed away properly. No, it's the bosun that's in charge of the gutting.
I see. And this routine, I take it, only applies when you're fishing under what can be described as normal conditions.
Yeah.
But when the ship is in danger, as it most certainly was upon this occasion, what happens then?
My lord, the prosecution has yet to prove that the ship was in danger.
Well, was it, Mr. Armstrong?
Definitely, yeah.
And did the captain stop fishing?
No, sir. The trawl was still over the side when we was chopping the ice. All he did was come off the bridge and give us an hand. Well, of course, by then it was too late.
Sullivan was with you on deck?
Yeah, but, I mean, he didn't have a clue. He kept falling and staggering. Twice I asked the skipper to let him leave the deck.
And he refused?
Point blank. Even though it was obvious what was going to happen. I mean, sooner or later, it was obvious he was going to go over the side. I mean, he'd never set foot in a ship in his life before.
Well, couldn't the mate do anything?
Oh, well, he reckons had it been left to him, he'd have kept him below. I don't know about that. Mind you, he had his hands full. I mean, the ship was ready to turtle over. But he knew. As far as he's concerned, he knew the score. And as a matter of fact, before that wave hit us, I remember seeing John drop the spanner or whatever it was he was holding and try and make his way off the deck. And he stopped him. I saw him grab him by the scruff of the neck. And that's all I seen, because, as I say, this wave hit us. By the time I got to my feet again, John had gone over the side. And if he hadn't have stopped him, my brother-in-law would be alive today. And there's 2 kids back there would have a father to come home to.
One last question, Mr. Armstrong. Was any attempt made to find your brother-in-law after he disappeared over the side?
No, it would have been a waste of time anyway. I mean, the sea was boiling in them waters. You freeze to death in minutes. No, we didn't do anything. He was gone, and that was that.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong.
Mr. Armstrong, you have told us how your brother-in-law, whose tragic death we all regret, came to join the Martina. Now, is there anything you wish to add to what you've already said? Anything you might have missed out?
No, I don't think so.
Are you quite sure?
Yes.
What about the ship's runner? Didn't you offer him a bribe so that he would secure a berth aboard the Martina for your brother-in-law? My lord, I have here the deposition of Norman Boland, a ship's runner who was until recently employed by the Patel Trawling Company.
Yes, and why isn't he here?
Well, since his dismissal for accepting this bribe, Mr. Boland has unfortunately been taken ill and is therefore unable to attend.
Very well, Mr. Woody.
This deposition testifies to the fact that the bribe was offered and accepted, and that Mr. Armstrong...
Yeah, well, all right. So I offered him a bribe. But giving backhanders to ship's runners is common practice. It happens all the time.
Then why conceal it?
Answer the question, please.
Well, I didn't mention it because I didn't think it important enough.
That is for this court to decide, not you, Mr. Armstrong.
I know that, my lord, but you see, what I'm trying to say is that there's so much corruption down there that you get used to it. I mean, they're all at it. A mate gives backhanders to the foreman lumper.
Lumper?
Yeah, or bobbers, as they're called in some ports. They're the fellows who unload the ships. If you get in their bad books, you're goosed. Well, the mate gives them a drop to make sure that the fish off his ship are all laid out nice and attractive. Like.
To tempt the buyers?
Yeah. I mean, you'll even get some chief engineers paying out a few quid just to make sure that everything is ship-shape and in working order. I tell you, there's so much corruption down there, I could write a book about it.
I must remind you, Mr. Armstrong, that you were here under oath.
Yes, my lord.
How much did you pay the runner?
I give him a £5, but he offered of another 5 when we got back.
And this transaction took place in the pub?
Yeah. As soon as I heard that the other fellow had ducked it, I followed the runner out back, to the lavatory, that is, and I slipped him a note inside a cigarette packet.
Mm. And how did he earn this bribe?
Well, by putting a word in for him with the mate. You see, as I said before, they usually do the hiring between them, If the runner recommends somebody, that's it. There's no argument.
And did the mate know that you bribed the runner?
No.
But it was you that approached the mate, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, but after the runner had talked to him.
Now, in answer to a question put to you by my learned colleague, you said, and here I quote, "When I put it to the mate and told him the score, he said it would be all right. He said his main concern was making up the crew and that he could always find work for him down in the fish room. Have I quoted you correctly?
Yeah?
Are you sure you've not once again left something out?
No, them were his words.
That he knowingly hired a man who had no fishing experience whatsoever?
Yeah?
But, Mr. Armstrong...
Look, it's not the first time that a non-fisherman's been picked up off the street and signed up just for one trip. I mean, check with the union, they'll tell you.
In his statement, the mate agrees that you approached him in the pub that night, but he claims that your brother-in-law posed as a trawlerman who had sailed out of Aberdeen.
And he's a liar.
Can you prove that?
Well, how can I? The only witness is our John. He's not here to back us up, is he?
Then it is your word against the mate's.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Now, you've been at sea, 19 years, you said, didn't you?
That's right, yeah.
Well, with all your experience, didn't you bother to consider how dangerous things could be for your brother-in-law?
Not if he was working down below in the fish room, no.
But it was November. The winter had set in. And you must have known what to expect once you reached the fishing grounds.
Look, it was coming Christmas. He was skint. Now, the worst I expected to happen to him was that, well, he might get knocked about a bit. But as I say, he was supposed to be working below.
Nevertheless, it was neither the time nor the place for a vessel like the Martina to be carrying a passenger, was it? Now then, when did Captain Stringer first realise that your brother-in-law was not all he claimed to be?
What, you mean, when did he tumble he wasn't a fisherman?
Yes.
Well, the second day out. It's what we call field day. It's when all hands are mustered to prepare to get the fishing gear ready. I mean, the minute he clapped eyes on him, he knew.
And then what happened?
Well, he tore a strip off him and sent him down below to work in the fish room and the galley. Wasn't much else he could do.
I agree. You had contrived the taking on of your inexperienced brother-in-law, and Captain Stringer was left to accept the responsibility. Now, you also stated that on the night this tragedy occurred that the ship was in peril.
Yeah, because of him.
Upon what do you base this observation?
Upon the evidence of my own eyes, upon what happened.
You hold a skipper's ticket, Mr. Armstrong?
No.
Or a mate's?
No.
You have perhaps then qualified as a boatswain?
No.
You are simply a deckhand.
Yeah, with 19 years' experience behind us.
But still a deckhand. Whereas on your own admission, Captain Stringer has for many years been a highly successful skipper.
Yeah, widows and orphans don't catch fish either, miss.
I beg your pardon.
My brother-in-law's dead.
Yes, but why him? Why not you? Or some other member of the crew? Why him?
I've already told you why. As far as trawling was concerned, he was just a day-old chick. He didn't know one end of a ship from another.
Exactly. He died because of his inexperience.
He had no right to be on deck.
He had no right to be on board, Mr. Armstrong, and it is because of you that he was.
So I've already explained that. Now, arrangements were made so that
Which the mate denies and the captain had no knowledge of until it was too late.
Look, you're ignoring the sort of conditions he made us fish in. If he had not have taken chances, then our John would have been alive today.
My lord, at this stage of the proceedings, the defence would like to introduce as evidence some film taken aboard a trawler making a routine trip to the fishing grounds off Iceland.
Yes, I was hoping it wouldn't be necessary. However, Mr. Hudson has no objections.
None, my lord.
Very well, Miss Dunwoody, you may proceed with your experiment. But do try to be as quick as you can about it.
Yes,
what
my
about Mr. Armstrong? Have you finished with him?
No, my lord.
Well, perhaps the witness would like to sit down.
No, thanks, my lord. I'll be all right.
Now, it is important, members of the jury, for you to realise that what you're about to see is a piece of ordinary film taken aboard a trawler. And although it does serve to illustrate the hazardous nature of fishing and the intense physical sufferings endured by trawlermen, in no way can the conditions shown on this film be regarded as exceptional. Trawling is the most dangerous occupation in Britain today, and the conditions encountered by the men of the Martina, which the prosecution has, in the opinion of the defence, certainly overstressed and exaggerated, are, in reality, the same conditions to which all distant water fishermen are normally exposed.
How long will all this take?
Exactly 2.5 minutes, my lord. Would you start the machine now, please? Now then, Mr. Armstrong, would you say that the piece of film we've just seen presents a fair and accurate picture of life aboard a trawler?
Oh, yeah, but it bears no comparison to the sort of conditions we met aboard the Martina.
Nevertheless, we have just seen experienced men slithering across rolling decks, weighed down by heavy boots and clothing, in winds of 50 or even 60 miles an hour. It takes very little imagination to realise what lies in store for them once they reach the Arctic. Once you enter those waters, the weather becomes fierce, hostile, and totally unpredictable, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Indeed, there are on record cases of ships that have simply disappeared completely without trace. Isn't that so?
And a good skipper who cares for the safety of his crew knows how to cope with that sort of situation. He doesn't go running headlong into it like he did.
Oh, come now, Mr. Armstrong. As a trawlerman, you know very well that fishing is a gamble. Captain Stringer took calculated risks, and that is what he's paid to do.
He's not paid to throw away men's lives.
No, he is not. But then we must remember that Mr. Sullivan came aboard the Martina under false pretenses. And the jury may consider that the man most responsible for causing the death of Mr. Sullivan is not Captain Stringer, but yourself. I have no further questions, my lord.
The witness may stand down.
Join us again tomorrow when the case of the Queen against Stringer will be resumed in the Crown Court. William Stringer, skipper of the fishing trawler Martina, faces a charge of causing the death through criminal neglect of John Sullivan, a deckhand on the Martina while engaged in a fishing operation off Bear Island. He has pleaded not guilty. The jury in this trial has been selected from members of the public whose names appear on the electoral register and who are eligible for jury service. The case has now entered its second day, and the prosecution has just called Matthew Cole, mate on the Martina, as a witness.
Mr. Cole, how long did you serve as ship's mate aboard the Martina?
I'm still on her.
Under a different skipper, though?
Yes.
How many trips did you make under Captain Stringer?
8.
And each trip lasts for how long?
3 weeks.
So you spent, what, 6 months working together then?
That's right, yeah.
How did you get on with him?
Very well.
You had a good relationship?
Yes. Well, we had our differences. There was a bit of friction here and there.
Differences with regard to what?
Well, all skippers and mates disagree from time to time.
Oh, I'm sure they do, Mr. Cole, but let's not generalise, shall we? Let's talk about your relationship with the captain.
Well, Captain Stringer knew more about fishing than any other skipper I'd ever sailed under. I mean, he knew the grounds, like I knew the streets where I lived. And I've seen him take bearings just by glancing through the bridge window.
And despite all this, you still had your differences with him?
Yeah, but that all came later. On the last couple of trips, he was a different man.
In what way?
Well, he wasn't sure of himself anymore. Began when his luck seemed to change and he wasn't landing the big catches. For 2 trips run, we hardly fetched home enough fish to cover expenses. Nothing seemed to go right for him. Like, we might find ourselves in the middle of a chip shop and there'd be ships scattered in all directions bringing the fish, but we get nothing. Maybe he's pick up a load of duffs or dogfish, which tears holes in the net. But the green stuff, the cod, there was nothing. All the rest were pulling, but not us, you know, that sort of thing.
And what usually happens when a skipper has a bad trip?
Gets a sack.
But surely in this case he'd already chalked up 2 bad trips, haven't he?
Yeah, but he was a top skipper.
Nevertheless, wouldn't a 3rd failure have led to his dismissal?
I can't answer that. In his case, they might have just rested him.
Don't call us, we'll call you. Is that the kind of thing that happens when a skipper is rested?
Something like that.
So in other words, he had this sword hanging over his head. Must have been sheer hell for him, wouldn't you say? Especially a man of his reputation. I imagine the strain must have weighed very heavily upon him.
Well, he was worried about it, yes. I mean, naturally.
Worried enough to take unnecessary risks?
Well, all skippers have to take risks, otherwise they'd never catch anything.
Mr. Cole, would it be correct to assume that these differences which existed between yourself and Captain Stringer were directly related to his dangerous and irresponsible behaviour? Mr. Cole, you've already described how there was a change in your relationship, and just now you've described to the court the kind of pressures which Captain Stringer was working under.
Well, whereas before you would often discuss with me what was happening and where we were going, I mean, on the last trip we hardly spoke. And as things got from bad to worse, he seemed to lose all his confidence, and he accused me, in particular, of ganging up on him.
How do you mean, ganging up on him?
Well, siding with the rest of the crew against him, which just wasn't true. He had the impression that we were all against him, and it got that way that he wouldn't speak to anybody, apart from the radio operator. I mean, I'd give a note and he'd countermand it, or instead of coming direct to me, he'd go and tell the bosun, and I'd get it from him. That sort of thing.
Now, we've heard from Mr. Armstrong about the sort of weather conditions that you found when the Matina arrived at the fishing grounds, the pack ice and the fog and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, only that it made things that much more difficult. I remember we'd been out there for 4 days and we only had 600 kit in the pounds.
And what is that in terms of weight?
Well, a kit's 10 stone, but to make a trip we needed at least 2,000.
How many days do you actually spend fishing?
10 on average.
Which means you only had 6 days left in which to reach your target.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So what did Captain Stringer do?
Well, on the 5th day, he set a course for the Barents Sea. But then before we got there, he changed his mind again. We came back to Bear Island.
Did you agree with that decision?
I was never given the opportunity to.
No, but did you agree with it?
Well, it wasn't for me to either agree or disagree. I mean, it's a skipper's job to locate the fish.
Do you hold a skipper's ticket, Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Yet you signed on as mate.
Yes, my lord.
Well, isn't that a bit unusual?
Well, anybody can sit for his skipper's ticket, my lord, providing he's done 5 years on deck and 1 year as mate. It's something the owners encourage, so they'll always have a supply of skippers.
You mean because it sharpens competition between individual skippers, keeps them on their toes, as it were?
Yes, my lord.
Yeah, thank you.
Then you are certainly qualified to express an opinion, Mr. Cole, so let me put the question to you again. Did you agree with Captain Stringer's decision to return to Bear Island?
Well, if you put it that way, then the answer is no. But then I would never have gone to Bear Island in the first place.
Because of the weather conditions?
No, that you can't guarantee no matter where you go. But you see, every trawler skipper has his own favourite fishing grounds. With him it was always the White Sea, but having come unstuck there, he thought he could change his luck by going to Bear Island, which I personally thought was a wrong move. Having once made his choice, though, I think he should have kept to it.
Why?
Well, it was always him who used to drum it into us about not wasting time and fuel chasing all over the place like other skippers do.
Would you say, then, that he was acting irrationally?
Given the sort of man he is and knowing what he's capable of, I'd say what he did was completely out of character.
With the result that you became alarmed and concerned at some of the decisions that he was taking?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Cole, you already described to us how difficult it was for you to communicate with Captain Stringer, but did you at any time attempt to express your feelings of fear and alarm to him?
Yeah, I did several times, but he wouldn't listen.
I see. Well, let's leave that for a moment, shall we? And let's talk about how you came to hire Mr. Sullivan. Now, according to his brother-in-law, James Armstrong, you knew all along that he was not a fisherman, and that, in fact, he'd never been aboard a ship in his life before.
No, that's not true. He told me that Sullivan had been sailing out of Aberdeen for 3 years, but he'd been ashore for 9 months and he needed a job.
Well, didn't you ask to see his book?
Yeah, it did. He said he'd lost it.
And what happened when Captain Stringer found out?
He went off at me. Said it was my fault. Anyway, Armstrong's name went straight into the log. Skipper said he'd deal with him when we got back.
And then the captain put Sullivan to work down in the fish room?
Yes.
Because he knew that Sullivan was a complete novice?
Yes.
Very well. Now let us go back to the night that Sullivan was washed overboard. Did you see it happen?
No. I saw him on deck, but I didn't see him go over the side.
Well, can you describe to the court the events leading up to that?
Well, we were night fishing. The ship was blind.
Blind?
Yeah, the radar had iced up and we had 2 men in the bows acting as lookout. Visibility was down to about 3 cables and the ice was piling up on the weather side. Apart from that, there was a force 9 blowing. Well, just before midnight, we pulled in about 4 barges and I expected the skipper to call it quits. But he decided to shoot again.
You mean carry on fishing?
Yeah. Well, I told him I thought the ice should come first. But he ordered me off the bridge and he told me to get the gear over the side.
Which you did?
Yes.
And then what happened?
Well, he rang for towing revs, but she wasn't answering. What with that and the ice, I thought any minute the ship was going to turtle over. So I went back on the bridge and I told him I thought he should chop the gear.
You mean cut loose the net?
Yeah, axe the trawl. You see, this would have made the ship lighter by about 10 ton.
Did he accept your advice?
No, sir. He called all hands on deck and he got everybody at work chopping the ice.
Including Sullivan?
Yes.
Wasn't that rather like sending him to his death?
My lord, I must object.
Well, let's put it a different way, then. How did Sullivan react? Did you see him pleading with the captain, begging him to let him go back down below?
No, and I doubt whether anybody else did either. I mean, we're in the middle of a storm and she was getting ready to turn over.
Supposing, Mr. Cole, that the captain had taken your advice, discontinued fishing and taken her out of the storm, do you think Sullivan would still be alive today?
I must again object. My Lord Counsel is deliberately leading this witness.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. No further questions.
Mr. Cole, how are the trawlermen paid? Do they receive a basic wage?
Yes, miss.
How much?
Well, it can vary. With our fellas, the sea rate's £34 a week and the shore rate's £30.
Mm-hmm. And is that all?
No, on top of that, they can earn what we call poundage money. You see, what happens is, in addition to the weekly wage that deckhands get, they also receive a percentage of the amount that the fish will fetch at auction. Not actually of what is caught, but what it sells at. Well, this depends on the state of the market.
In other words, a sort of bonus?
Yeah, you could call that, yeah.
And are the skipper and the mate included in this bonus scheme?
No, we get a small basic, but our main wage comes from the net profit that the ship makes after expenses have been deducted. The skipper gets 10% of the net, and the mate gets 7.5%. That's the way it works.
Which means, then, that if you have a bad trip, the mate gets 7.5% of nothing.
Yeah.
And as you have already explained to this court, on your 2 previous trips prior to the last one, you caught very little fish. You said, and here I quote, "For 2 trips running, we hardly fetched home enough fish to cover expenses."
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Well, didn't that make you very angry and dissatisfied? I mean, all those weeks at sea and nothing to show for it.
Well, I wasn't very pleased about it, no.
No, I don't suppose you were, Mr. Cole. And I don't suppose it did your relationship with Captain Stringer much good either, did it?
No, look, if what you're trying to say is that I had it in for him because of that, then you're wrong. That had nothing to do with it.
If you say so, Mr. Cole.
Look, I've already stated my opinion of Captain Stringer. He was the best skipper I've ever sailed under. Just that things got on top of him, that's all. There's nobody more sorry than I am that he's in the mess he is.
It's very nice of you to say so, Mr. Cole. And I'm sure the jury are suitably impressed with your loyalty. However, they are not to know that on at least one occasion when that loyalty and trust in Captain Stringer was put to the test, you took the matter into your own hands, didn't you, Mr. Cole?
I don't remember that.
Well, then, let me remind you. In September, you were fishing in the White Sea and a storm blew up. You went to Captain Stringer and asked him to stop fishing, didn't you?
Yes, well, that was different.
In what way was it different?
Well, because...
The weather must have been bad, or you would never have asked him to stop fishing. Unless, of course, you panicked for no reason at all.
I didn't panic.
But you did urge him to abandon fishing operations, did you not?
Yes, I did, yes.
And after Captain Stringer refused, then what did you do? Accept his decision and his advice, as any loyal officer would do in the circumstances?
No, I didn't, because...
No, Mr. Cole, you didn't. You waited until he had left the bridge and then asked the radio operator to contact the Falcon, a sister ship fishing some 30 miles away.
As a precaution, yes.
Against what?
Well, it was my opinion that the ship was in danger.
But your captain had already decided that the ship was not in any danger. And yet you persisted. You went behind his back. Now, would you call that an act of loyalty, Mr. Cole?
I used my judgment.
And were proved wrong. Your assessment of the situation was as wrong as it was on the night that Sullivan was washed overboard. I put it to you, Mr. Cole, that on both these occasions you simply panicked.
No, that's not true.
And disobeyed your captain's orders. And today you have deliberately distorted and exaggerated everything in order to protect yourself and to discredit Captain Stringer.
No, you've got it all wrong.
You are Eric Wilson of 13 Amos Drive, Fulchester.
Yes.
And you are a ship's radio officer?
I was, yes.
Was?
Well, after what happened, I left the industry and took a job ashore.
But you were serving aboard the Martina at the time of Sullivan's death, were you not?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson, I think most of us are vaguely familiar with what a ship's radio officer does. By definition, he mans the radio and keeps the vessel in contact with the outside world. Perhaps you could enlarge upon this a bit for us, Mr. Wilson.
Well, in my opinion, the Sparks never gets the credit he deserves. And he's the only man aboard a ship who could never be replaced because it's a very highly skilled job. Well, when you take into consideration the machines used for locating the fish, like the echo sounders, he probably has more gear to look after than most of the big merchant ships. Radar, shortwave radio, ship-to-shore telephone. All these he has to operate and maintain if anything goes wrong. In fact, we spend more time studying ashore than the skipper does to get his ticket.
And the place where you work, your room, where's that located?
Well, next to the bridge, just at the back there.
Which means that in this case you probably had more opportunity of observing Captain Stringer than anybody else aboard ship. Would that be right?
Yeah, I probably did.
In fact, you often shared the bridge together.
Yeah, more or less.
Now, all this highly complicated equipment you described to us, Mr. Wilson, the echo sounders and so on, does suggest that, well, a radio operator could be very useful to a skipper, couldn't he? I mean, in some cases, he could almost be regarded as a sort of technical assistant. Would that be right?
Well, yeah, half of them would be lost without us.
Then a close working relationship must inevitably have developed between yourself and Captain Stringer.
Oh, very much so. Plus the fact, of course, that the Sparks is the only man aboard a ship, apart from the cook, that the captain can afford to confide in and talk to.
Why is that?
Well, because we aren't a threat to them. Every other man aboard a ship is a potential threat and rival for his job, whereas a Sparks is more of a technician than a fisherman.
You have no axe to grind, as it were.
Exactly.
Then you can afford to be objective, Mr. Wilson, so let me ask you this. Now, the ship's mate, Mr. Cole, has already said to us that Captain Stringer was driven by desperation into taking chances and that he'd lost confidence in himself. Now, would you agree with that?
Well, I'd have to, wouldn't I? I mean, a man who drinks is a man with a problem, and Captain Stringer had more than his share of trouble.
Are you saying that Captain Stringer drank?
Yes. Once we entered the grounds, he began hitting the bottle. I'm not saying he was actually drunk, but the bottle never left his side, let's put it that way.
But isn't it illegal for a fisherman, a skipper particularly, to drink while at sea?
Well, I wouldn't know about that, but they nearly all do, not just skippers, but everybody.
So this wasn't the first time, then, that you'd seen Captain Stringer drinking while at sea?
Well, no, but this was only my third trip on the Martina. What I'm saying is, I'd never seen him drinking to that extent before.
Was he drinking on the night that Sullivan died?
Yes, but no more than usual, and he wasn't drunk at all, and he knew what he was doing.
Where did he keep his drink?
In the cupboard where the bond's kept. I believe he had a couple of bottles tucked away in his cabin, but I couldn't swear to that.
And what were these problems which you referred to?
Well, it was common knowledge among the rest of the crew that this was his last chance, that if he didn't get a trip in, he'd probably lose his ship.
Get the sack, you mean?
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Cole has testified also that for 5 days the captain hardly ever left the bridge.
Yeah, that's true. He sat with me listening to reports on the radio, trying to collect and ferret out information from other skippers.
Did he have much luck?
No. Well, mind you, though, some skippers deliberately give false information so as they can have the sea to themselves, that sort of thing.
Didn't it strike you as odd that a man of his reputation should have to listen in, hoping that some chance remark might lead him to fish?
Well, in a way it did, yes. Top skippers don't usually play follow the leader, but as I say, he was in serious trouble and things just weren't going right for him.
Did you ever see the mate come up to the bridge and urge Captain Stringer to stop fishing?
Yes.
And when was that?
Well, on the night Sullivan went over, the skipper decided to shoot the trawl. Everybody thought he was mad. The radar had packed in and the ship was blind. We were surrounded by masses of ice and she was weighed down with ice too. Well, it was then that the mate came up to the bridge and told the skipper we ought to stop fishing and get clear.
Where were you?
Well, I was at the wheel and the skipper was at the window looking out when the mate came in.
Can you remember exactly what was said?
Well, I heard Mr. Cole say something about the ice must come first. Then they began arguing and the skipper ordered him off the bridge.
What happened next?
Well, after the mate had gone back down and put the gear over the side, the skipper rang down for revs, but she wasn't responding. The waves took her on the beam and the stern went right under. Then the mate came back up again, and for a minute I thought there was going to be a right set to. He was that angry.
Was that when he urged the captain to chop away the gear to cast the net adrift?
Yes, but he refused. He wouldn't hear of it. Instead, he called all hands on deck and got them to work on the ice, himself included. Well, I stayed on at the wheel.
And after that, it was presumably impossible for you to see what was happening on deck?
Well, to tell you the truth, I was that scared by then, I just clung onto the wheel and hoped for the best.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson.
How long have you been a ship's radio officer, Mr. Wilson?
Just over 2 years, miss.
And before that?
I worked in a factory.
Connected with the fishing industry?
No, engineering.
Now, who employs the radio officers, Mr. Wilson? Is it the trawler owners?
Well, no, they're hired out by the firm that rents out the equipment.
Ah. And they also train you for the job?
Yes, Sparks spends a full year studying ashore, attending the course.
After which he acquires the status of a ship's officer.
Oh, providing he passes the examination.
Which you did.
Of course.
And now you throw all that up and take a job ashore.
Yes.
Why?
Well, because of what happened.
But surely you must have known beforehand that fishing is a dangerous occupation and that accidents like this are bound to happen from time to time.
Well, I'm not a fisherman and never have been.
No. As you keep on reminding us, you are a specialist.
What's wrong with that?
Oh, nothing, but you say it with such pride.
Look, I don't call something that could have been avoided an accident.
So you're saying then that Captain Stringer was directly responsible for causing the death of Mr. Sullivan?
I'm saying he could have avoided it, yes.
But how? By taking the advice of a radio officer with 2 years' experience. You did offer him your advice, didn't you, Mr. Wilson?
I made 1 or 2 suggestions.
Yes, which he not surprisingly refused. The truth is, of course, that contrary to the impression you have given this court, the relationship between you and Captain Stringer was anything but friendly.
Because of his attitude, yes.
And that is why you decided to sign off and take a job ashore.
I decided to finish with trawling because I wasn't prepared to put my life at risk sailing with a man who's past it and needs a drink to keep him going.
Ah, yes. That is something else. Now, you have attempted without success to convey one false impression, so now let us deal with this matter of Captain Stringer's drinking habits. You've presented this court with a picture of a man who spent all his time drinking while on duty.
I didn't say all the time.
Oh, but you did, Mr. Wilson. Your actual words were, and I quote, "The bottle never left his side." That is what you said.
Yes, and I also said he was never drunk. He just kept on taking a nip out of it.
A nip? Now, what is that? An inch or 2 inches? The sort of single measure you were offered in a pub?
Yes.
Yes, what?
About the size of a single measure.
Ah. Already the picture is changing. Now, tell me, Mr. Wilson, did you ever take a nip, as you call it?
Well, occasionally, yes, we all did.
So it wasn't just the captain who was taking an occasional drink, but the rest of the crew were getting their share as well.
Yes.
And why not? It is very cold out there, isn't it?
Very.
So then, is it not possible that the odd drink or nip, as you call it, could have a beneficial effect?
Taken in moderation, yes.
There you go again, Mr. Wilson. Now, first you say one thing and then you say another. Now, let us be quite clear about this. Did you at any time ever see Captain Stringer drunk while on duty?
No.
And was he ever incoherent or confused because of drink?
Not that I was aware of.
And did he at any time issue orders or commands that might suggest that his mind in any way was affected by alcohol?
No, but he was taking all the wrong decisions.
How can you possibly say that, Mr. Wilson?
Well,
2 years at sea as a radio officer doesn't qualify you to make such observations.
It wasn't just me. The entire crew, including the mate, knew he was taking too many chances.
Did you and the mate ever discuss what was happening?
Well, we mentioned it once or twice, yes, naturally.
Behind Captain Stringer's back?
Not by design, though, but the mood he was in made it difficult.
I'm quite sure it did, Mr. Wilson. Now then, one point that must be confusing the jury is why the mate didn't mention anything about Captain Stringer's drinking habits. And he was called as a witness for the prosecution.
Well, probably because the owners frown upon drinking, and to some extent everybody was at it.
Did things ever get out of hand?
No, but there was some steady supping going on, especially on the way out to the grounds.
And also at the grounds?
Yes.
And were all involved, including the mate?
Yes.
And yourself, of course.
Now and again, yes.
So, there is nothing exceptional or unusual about men taking a drink while at sea.
No.
So why single out Captain Stringer?
Because he's the one who gives the orders, and in my opinion, he was relying on the drink to do his job. It helped prop him up.
Wasn't it also part of his job to listen in to the ship's radio so that he could collect information? I mean, doesn't the ship's radio blare almost incessantly, with everyone screaming for information, dropping hints, offering false clues, hoping to gain some advantage? Isn't that all part of the game that skippers play with one another?
During slack fishing, yes.
Then why bother to mention it?
Because it just wasn't his style.
How would you know that? How could you possibly know that? This was your 3rd trip on the Martina. The fact is, Mr. Wilson, that a ship's radio is a sort of weapon. Some owners have even devised their own special codes so that they can talk directly to their skippers about the state of the market and so on, without divulging vital information to their rivals.
Yeah.
So important, indeed, is the use of radio that some ships even have their own scrambling devices.
But it's all a gamble. You never know what to believe.
Unless, of course, you have the experience to extract and to analyze correctly the information you are getting. So what, then, was so unusual in Captain Stringer using the radio in the manner I've just described?
Well, nothing really, but as I said before, it just
was not his style.
Yes.
One final point, Mr. Wilson. Now, this piece of advice that you offered to Captain Stringer, and which he rejected, now, what was that?
Well, I asked him to contact other ships in the area to give them our bearings, just in case something happened.
Was that your idea or the mate's?
Mine.
Are you quite sure?
Yes?
I ask, Mr. Wilson, because on an earlier trip, Mr. Cole made a similar request. And like you, he was refused. Now, that is quite a remarkable coincidence, is it not?
Join us tomorrow when the case of the Queen against Stringer will be concluded in the Crown Court. William Stringer, skipper of the fishing trawler Martina, faces a charge of causing the death through criminal neglect of John Sullivan, a deckhand on the Martina, while engaged in fishing off Bear Island. He has pleaded not guilty. The jury in this trial has been selected from members of the public whose names appear on the electoral register and who are eligible for jury service. The case has now entered the third day, and the prosecution has just called Dr. Wesley.
Dr. Wesley, you are a practicing psychiatrist at the Fulchester General Hospital, are you not?
Yes.
And I believe you've made a special study of fishermen under stress, is that correct?
I have devoted a certain amount of time and research to the subject, yes.
How long have you been treating Captain Stringer?
I first saw him on December the 18th.
Ah, that would be after the Department of Trade inquiry, wouldn't it?
Yes, I believe it was.
And did he come to see you?
Yes, he'd asked his own doctor for an appointment and visited me at the hospital.
What was wrong with him?
He was suffering from depression.
Oh, is that all?
There were the usual anxiety symptoms. But considering the sort of pressures the trawler skippers are subjected to, that isn't at all unusual.
In other words, then, he was in good health?
Basically. I found him to be a well-balanced personality, strong-willed, intelligent.
Able to stand up to stress?
Up to a point, yes. But because of the very nature of their work, all trawler skippers are highly tensed individuals, and potentially any one of them could suffer a nervous breakdown at any time.
Oh, but surely, Doctor, that could apply to almost anyone, couldn't it? I mean, aren't we all subject to pressures of one kind or another?
Yes, but for the trawler skipper, there are no compensating factors like family life, which most of us can retreat into. They're gamblers, and like most gamblers, they're obsessed. They return from a trip, exhausted, and yet devote the whole of their leave to plotting and brooding over where they might best hunt the fish on the next trip. Their lives are geared to one purpose only, and sooner or later the strain begins to show, which is why so many of them are prone to heart disease, insomnia, and emotional instability.
Nevertheless, there was nothing seriously wrong with Captain Stringer, was there?
Not from any psychiatric standpoint, no.
Mr. Hudson, what are you trying to establish with this line of questioning?
Well, my lord, the fact that Captain Stringer only decided to seek psychiatric help after he knew that criminal proceedings were to be taken against him does suggest to the prosecution that the defence might possibly use this as evidence to show that he was not fully responsible for his actions, in which case...
My lord, the defence has no such intention.
Then it seems you called this witness quite unnecessarily.
Well, my lord, the prosecution was also trying to establish how a psychiatrist could, by observation, predict to some extent how a patient like Captain Stringer might react under certain circumstances.
Well, I think that is something for the jury to decide. I see no point in detaining this witness any longer. He's released from further attendance.
As your lordship pleases.
Have you any further witnesses, Mr. Hudson?
No, my lord, that completes the case for the prosecution.
How old are you, Captain Stringer?
55, Mum.
And how long have you been fishing?
Started as a decky learner when I was 15.
And that would be in...
That was 1936, Mum.
40 years ago.
Yes, Mum.
Now, did you continue fishing during the war?
Yes, I did at first, but then after the Royal Navy started requisitioning trawlers for minesweeping, I volunteered for that.
Now, what about your family? Were they fishermen too?
Yes, they always have been. My father here was a skipper. I had 4 other brothers, all fishing. The eldest one He was lost on the Jardian when she went down to the North Sea with all hands.
As a result of enemy action?
Yes, ma'am, German submarine.
And what ship did you serve on?
Morning Star.
And did you see much action?
Fair amount.
Enough to earn you the MBE for gallantry, I believe. And how old were you when that happened?
I was 22, ma'am.
And what rank were you holding at the time?
I'd just been made up to ship's boatswain.
Now, after the war ended, you returned to fishing?
Yes, I sailed under my father on the Vanguard.
And when were you made a skipper?
That was in 1950. After my father retired, I took over the Vanguard. Of course, I've been mating for 5 years before that.
So altogether, you've been a ship's captain for 26 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And during all that time, have you ever lost command of a ship?
Well, I once had one sink under us, but I've never been sacked, if that's what you mean.
That was the Vanguard?
Yes, we were rammed in the White Sea by a German vessel. It was an accident on their part. There was no loss of life.
And have you ever been disciplined for anything?
Never.
So until now, you've had a clean record?
Still is, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, how many companies have you worked for since you were made a skipper?
2. I started off with McBride's over in Hull. Then, when I came over here because of the family, I joined this firm. That was 8 years ago. And
you immediately got yourself another ship?
Oh, yes.
You had no trouble?
None at all. I walked straight onto a top ship.
And that was the Martina?
No, it was a vessel called the Loretta. She was only a year old. She did a diesel engine job.
So you were then able to enter this port, an outsider, as it were, and straight away you are offered a top ship. Now, isn't that a little unusual?
Yes, but I went on that understanding. I was offered the Loretta before I left Hull.
And why was that?
It's because I was what they call a Don skipper.
Which means?
Means I was good at my job. These people that don't put £1 million under your feet unless you're good. And I just won the Silver Cod twice on the run.
Now, the Silver Cod, what is that?
Well, it's a trophy. It's an award that the trawler owners used to give to the skipper who landed the biggest catch in any one year. It's a sort of a prize.
And you won it twice?
Yes, ma'am. 2 years on the run. As a matter of fact, it was whilst I was being presented with it at the Fishmongers' Hall that I met Mr. Garside. He's one of our directors, and he'd heard I was leaving Hull, so he offered me the Loretta.
And that was 8 years ago?
It was just over 8, yes.
I see. Now, how did you fare when you joined this new company? Did you live up to their expectations?
Oh, still landing some big catches, yes.
But according to Mr. Cole, the mate, you had a run of bad luck.
Well, he wasn't even around at the time. He hadn't even been made up, but it's true, I did strike a bad patch, but it happens to all skippers at one time or another.
Yes, I'm sure it does, Captain Stringer. But the picture Mr. Cole paints is of a nervous skipper who had lost all confidence in himself. Now, what do you say to that?
Well, I'd say he's either a liar or a fool, probably a bit of both. He was certainly incompetent.
In what way?
Well, probably I'm being a bit harsh on the lad, because after all, he wasn't all that experienced, but when he talks about me losing confidence, the boat's on the other foot. He'd panic at the least thing.
And is that why you chose to deal directly with the boatswain rather than with the mate?
Yes, because when it came to the pinch, I couldn't always rely on him.
Well, that must have been rather a humiliating experience for him, don't you think?
Probably was, but what else could I do? I mean, when it comes to the safety of the ship, I'd no other option.
But hadn't you noticed this deficiency in Mr. Cole before?
There'd been signs, yes. I suppose what I should have done, I should have put it on my report and let them know.
You mean the owners?
Yes.
And why didn't you?
Well, because with that on his report, it'd have finished him. I mean, he'd never have had any chance of getting a vessel of his own. So what I did, I nursed him, I covered for him, hoping to grow out of it, but of course he never did. And now he sits there accusing me.
Now, is it customary for a skipper not to tell his mate where he's going, what fishing grounds he's heading for?
Oh, yes. I'd say that 9 out of every 10 skippers don't tell their mates, if only because they never show themselves. And that's where the ship's radio comes in, because you're always trying to be one jump ahead of the next fella, so you don't broadcast it.
So as far as you and Mr. Cole were concerned, there was nothing unusual about this? Nothing of any special significance?
Well, to be strictly honest with you, I'd never have told him anyway, for the reasons I've just given. I think the less he knew about it, the better.
I see. Now then, what about the drink? You've heard the radio officer, Mr. Wilson, say, or rather suggest, that you were drinking rather heavily.
That's a right load of hot codswallop, that is. I bet I didn't shift half a bottle all the time we're on the entire grounds. If I'd sucked all I'm supposed to do, I'd have been flat on my back.
Yes, well, the suggestion was that the drink helped to sustain you, to keep you going.
There's only one thing sustains us, ma'am, and that's a sight of fish in the pounds. When you're booking a force 9 out in them waters, you don't need drink, except to keep the cold out, of course. You're that keyed up. All you want to sustain you is the fish. That's why you can go for 4 nights without having a proper sleep. All your juices are working overtime. Plus the fact And a man of my experience would never in a million years think of getting drunk, especially when he's fishing.
He didn't say you were actually drunk.
Ah, well, he as good as, ma'am, he as good as.
Captain Stringer, tell me, isn't it an offence to take intoxicating liquor aboard a fishing trawler?
Well, as far as I know, my lord, there's no definite law that says a fisherman can't take drink aboard ship, although it's something that's never really been sorted out.
I did take the trouble to look this up, my lord. And the situation is, as Captain Stringer has already indicated, rather vague. For example, I have here the report of the Working Group on Discipline in the Fishing Industry, which is dated November 1975. Now, this report makes a number of recommendations to eliminate this problem, and then goes on to say that it is not an offence.
May I see that, Miss Dunwoody?
Certainly, my lord.
Please carry on, Miss Dunwoody.
Now, when you discovered that the deceased, John Sullivan, was not an experienced fisherman, what did you do?
Well, I flew off the handle as I was entitled to, and it wasn't fair on anybody, especially the lad himself, God rest his soul.
But the mate says that he hired him in all good faith.
Everybody, including the ship's cat, could tell he wasn't a real fisherman by the way he talked. As soon as I clapped eyes on him, I knew he'd landed a duff.
Did you know at the time, or did you suspect, that the runner had accepted a bribe for getting this man a job?
Well, it was obvious somebody had done.
Are you suggesting that the mate is involved?
Well, only insofar as he wasn't doing his job properly. He probably just accepted the runner's work for it without checking.
So, faced with this situation, what did you do?
What about Sullivan, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I couldn't afford to turn back, so I put him to work in the fish room, either there or the galley, whichever was busiest.
And there he remained, until you reached the fishing grounds, where on the night in question, he was ordered up on deck, is that it?
No, that isn't it. There was never at any time that I ordered that lad up on deck. He came up under his own steam. I told him to get back down below again, but he took no notice.
Ah, but the witness Armstrong has claimed that he himself twice begged you to let Sullivan go back down below out of the storm, and that you refused.
Ah, well, then he's a liar.
Why should he lie?
Well, maybe he thinks he might cop for a few quid out of the compensation money, I don't know.
Captain Stringer, can you offer any proof to substantiate that?
No, my lord.
Then let's hear no more about it.
Now, Armstrong also claims that when Sullivan tried to make his way off the deck, you stopped him. He said, and here I quote, "I seen him grab him by the scruff of the neck."
Which is true, I did. I saw the lad fall, so I grabbed him, and I wanted him off the deck, but the lad was terrified and he refused to budge.
Then had he obeyed your orders and left the deck, he would have been alive today?
Absolutely. He could have gone down below and waited till the storm blew itself out.
Thank you, Captain Stringer.
TV Lawyers.
How old did you say you were, Captain Stringer?
55.
Don't most skippers retire when they reach the 50 mark?
Some do. It depends on the state of mind.
Indeed it does, Captain Stringer, and your own mental powers were, shall we put it, on the wane.
I don't think so.
But your present employers do. Why else would they take away from you the Loretta and put you in charge of a much older vessel? When you first joined your present company, you were high up in their batting order, were you not? Which is why they offered you a newly built modern ship.
Yes.
But then, because your luck had changed, they transferred you to the Martina.
Ah, well, all I want nowadays is quick results. Loyalty counts for nothing.
So they gave you the Martina, for whatever reason. Your advanced age, a decline in your fishing ability, bad luck, one reason or another. You are no longer a top skipper.
I could still give some of these young uns a run for their money.
I'm sure you could, Captain Stringer, but not according to your employers. In fact, had you failed to bring back a reasonable catch on your last trip, you would, to put it bluntly, have been out on your ear.
Ah, well, I already am.
Really?
Aye. Irrespective of what happens here today, the axe has fallen. I'm finished as a skipper.
I am sorry to hear that.
Ah, well, I'm not. That's what happens to a man after he's given 40 years of his life to fishing. They can have it, and good riddance. The game isn't worth a candle.
Yes, well, you see, the point the prosecution is trying to make, Captain Stringer, is that because of all these pressures upon you, you were driven by sheer desperation, perhaps, to take risks that you wouldn't normally have taken, thus endangering the lives of your crew.
No, that isn't true.
What about the weather?
Well, I fished him worse and got away with it.
You didn't get away with it this time, did you? And as a direct result of your actions, a man has died.
Only because he's lost his head and he shouldn't have been there in the first place.
He was there on your orders.
What, you mean aboard ship?
No. I refer to the fact that you insisted on him remaining on deck during the storm.
Ah, well, I've already told you what happened.
Oh, come now, Captain. Do you honestly expect the jury to believe that this man Sullivan, who was, as you say, terrified out of his wits, actually insisted on staying on deck during that terrible storm.
Yes, that's how it was.
Oh, and even when you grabbed him by the scruff of the neck, he still refused to go below.
Yes.
Are you seriously expecting the court to believe that?
When a man's mind is frozen with fear and panic, he does all sorts of things that you can't account for. And I know what I'm talking about, because I've seen that sort of thing happen in other ways.
Yes, one can accept that, Captain Stringer. But the instinct for survival is a much stronger emotion than fear, wouldn't you agree?
Well, maybe he thought he could survive better up on deck, I don't know. Fear makes men do strange things.
Yes, like driving skippers to fish in dangerous waters.
Yeah, have you ever been to sea, mister?
No, but the mate has. And Mr. Wilson has. And Mr. Armstrong has. And they have all three said on oath that you did act irresponsibly and that you were taking unnecessary risks.
Wilson is just a day-old chick. He hardly got his feet wet. And as for Cole, he's just another young bull trying to claw his way up the rigging. Not that he'll ever make it, though.
Your hatred and contempt for Mr. Cole amounts almost to an obsession, Captain Stringer.
I don't hate him, but when you've helped and sheltered a man the way I have, and then you have to listen to him telling lies about you, how else are you supposed to react?
But despite all that you have said, and we only have your word for it that he's telling lies, Mr. Cole is qualified. He holds a skipper's ticket.
Ah, well, sitting for your ticket ashore is one thing, but helping to run a ship's something entirely different. You can have it all in theory, but you can be a right burk when it gets down to practice.
You still insist, then, that he is incompetent?
Yes. One of the penalties in taking over an old ship like the Martina is that most of the crew are likely to be second best. I mean, there must be, otherwise they'd be on the top ships where the big money is.
That would apply to the skipper as well, I take it. Now, on the night the tragedy occurred, Captain Stringer, Mr. Cole asked you not once, but twice to stop fishing.
That's correct.
But you refused?
Yes, for the same reasons I've already given, yes.
And yet immediately after Sullivan disappeared over the side, you did exactly what Mr. Cole had been urging you to do. You chopped away the gear and pulled out of the storm.
Yes.
Why?
Because a man had just died.
Yes. And if you had taken Mr. Cole's advice just a little earlier, it would not have happened. Captain Stringer does present in many ways a tragic figure. Here we have a man who for many years has been at the very top of his profession, a Don skipper whose services were much sought after and who, as we have seen, could almost name his own ship. But then things started to slide. He began to lose his grip. So his employers took him down a peg. They gave him an old ship, and they said to him, in effect, find the fish or face the sack. Now, it is not for us to concern ourselves here with the harsh commercial world of the trawler owners where such decisions are taken. But the effect this had upon a man like Captain Stringer must have been rather devastating. Forced into an early retirement at 55, or perhaps a job as a night watchman on the fish dock, these were the kind of alternatives that faced him. And of course, there was his pride. Now, whether or not, and I do suggest that my learned colleague has made light of this, whether or not he was drunk while on duty is not the point. Nobody is saying or hinting in any way that he was an alcoholic. But I put it to you, members of the jury, that drinking could impair his judgment and his ability to take the right decisions. Every day, motorists are brought before the court and fined, not for being drunk, but simply because of the danger of impairment due to drink. Here we have a man in charge of a vessel of 1,000 tons and fishing in extreme conditions, who is in the habit, as he freely admits, of taking the odd nip, which counsel for the defense seems to think had some kind of beneficial effect upon him. Now, perhaps if fishing were a less hazardous occupation, one might agree with her. And now we come to the most damning piece of evidence of all. And I refer, of course, to the eyewitness account of how Captain Stringer seized Sullivan by the scruff of the neck and forced him to remain on deck. This, as you have heard, the captain entirely refutes. He says, and we only have his word for it, that the reverse is the truth. I wanted him off the deck, but the lad was terrified and refused to budge. Those were his words. On the other hand, Mr. Armstrong claims that twice he asked Captain Stringer to let Sullivan go below, and each time Captain Stringer refused. Armstrong then describes how his brother-in-law dropped the spanner he was holding and tried to make his way off the deck, and how Captain Stringer prevented him from doing so.
Sullivan is dead. Therefore, we have only Captain Stringer's account of what actually happened. Now, you will no doubt have noticed the quite considerable variation in the accounts given of this ill-fated voyage by the 3 members of the crew who have given evidence. And although Armstrong claims he saw what happened and that he saw Captain Stringer grab Sullivan, he did not hear what was being said. And there is not the slightest shred of evidence to suppose that Captain Stringer is not telling the truth when he says that he saw Sullivan fall, he grabbed him and told him to get off the deck. Now ask yourselves, members of the jury, what use was Sullivan in that stormy situation? There was no reason for Captain Stringer to retain him on the deck, where he would have been, and indeed probably was, a danger and a liability to everybody else. And I put it to you that Captain Stringer is telling the truth and that what he says happened actually happened. Now, of course, drinking while on duty is not something that one should encourage among fishermen. But let me remind you, members of the jury, that the captain is not on trial for his drinking habits. If he were, then at least half the skippers in Britain would be up before the courts, not for being drunk, I hasten to add, but for simply taking an occasional drink. Now, the prosecution has attempted to compare fishermen in general and skippers in particular with the average motorist who falls foul of the law. But there is no comparison. Taking a drink in icy conditions can act as a necessary stimulant, and it doesn't in any way dull the senses. Now, we must also take into account Captain Stringer's highly successful career. 40 years without the slightest blemish on his character. Now, surely that must count for something. I would also ask you to remember that Mr. Sullivan was the only casualty. There were no others. And in spite of what would seem to us the most appalling conditions, not a single man was injured, and the vessel returned to port undamaged. Mr. Sullivan died because of his inexperience, and Captain Stringer was in no way responsible for causing that death.
Members of the jury, you've heard the evidence, and although it is for me to direct you as to the law, you and you alone will have to decide, on the evidence which has been placed before you, whether the defendant, Captain William Stringer, is guilty as charged. Now, I must ask you to dismiss from your mind the very obvious feelings of hostility and resentment that members of the crew held one for the other, and to concentrate your minds upon what actually happened. Now, Captain Stringer denies that he forced Sullivan to remain on deck, but you have only his word for it. Mr. Armstrong has said that he tried to persuade the captain to send him below, but here again, there's no way that Mr. Armstrong can prove this. It is for you to decide which one is telling the truth. That is the question you have to resolve. And I must impress upon you that the prosecution must prove their case beyond all reasonable doubt. And if you're not absolutely convinced that the accused is guilty as charged, you have no other alternative but to acquit him. Will you now retire, elect a foreman, and consider your verdict?
Members of the jury, will your foreman please stand? Just answer the question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict on which you are all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find the defendant, Captain William Stringer, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Captain Stringer, in finding you not guilty, the jury have obviously taken into consideration the fact that you found yourself in an extremely perilous situation, one in which you had to bear the additional responsibility of an inexperienced member of your crew. I'm sure that many people like myself had not realized that trawlermen suffer such harsh and dangerous conditions in order to bring home fish for the housewife. Your career may be at an end, Captain Stringer, but you leave this court a free man with an untarnished record.
Court will rise.
The cases in Fulchester Crown Court are fictitious, but the jury is composed of members of the public. You can join us again for another leading case in the Crown Court.